Trusted Leader Show listeners, it's David Horsager from our studio here at Trust Edge Leadership Institute. I want to just give a huge thank you. It's our 100th episode coming up. Those of you listening from 85 countries on 6 continents, across industries, from government to sports to business to entrepreneurs to healthcare to education, I want to just say personally, thank you. Thanks for being in this journey with me. You've been with me when we listened to the founder of the Ritz-Carlton, and we listened to athletes, and we listened to CEOs of startups and companies, to the gentleman that has sold more books in categories, about 500 million books, to, I was thinking of just some of my favorites. So many different people that we've listened to and learned from about being trusted leaders and about creating trusted teams and trusted cultures. Thanks for joining me in this journey. We have some amazing guests ahead. So we're just celebrating this milestone of 100 shows because you've made it happen. Thanks for joining us, and we're looking forward to the next show, the next year, the next episode, the next celebration of Trusted Leader Show. Let's go! Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. I'm your host, David Horsager. Join me as I sit down with influential leaders from around the world to discuss why leaders and organizations fail, top tactics for high performance, and how you can become an even more trusted leader. Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. It's David Horsager, and I'm here with a special guest. I think we actually met face-to-face the first time keynoting, both of us on the, some have said it's the biggest event, one-day event in North America, that LeaderCast. We had a great time there. We've crossed paths certainly other times. She's known as the Jerry Maguire, female Jerry Maguire. She's negotiated contracts, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for coaches, pro athletes, Hall of Fame athletes, and a host of others, pro golfer. I know PGA Golf Tour folks and others. She knows peak performance, and she's just plain an amazing lady on stage and off. She's a multiple best-selling author. She's got some amazing courses on peak performance and other things, but she's also a friend. Please welcome to the show, Molly Fletcher. Thanks for being here.
It's great to be with you, David. This is going to be fun.
Hey, it's going to be fun. We're going to go fast and furious knowing you and knowing me and our energy. And
That's right.
I'm grateful to have you here. I'm grateful to call you friend. So let's just give us a 1-minute background on Molly Fletcher.
Yeah. So, I'm married with 3 daughters now who are all in college, but I grew up in Michigan, played tennis at Michigan State, moved to Atlanta to get into the sports business. Right after I graduated with, it's sort of a fun story, $2,000, no job. And I was sleeping on the couch of a friend's apartment and negotiated a deal to teach tennis for my rent at an apartment complex, which gave me an opportunity to take a job in sports where you make, $18,000 a year. And so I got into the sports business when I was young and evolved in that space and became an agent and represented about 300 athletes, coaches, broadcasters, built a team of agents, and then wrote a couple books, and companies started saying, hey, come talk about it. Like when you write a book, people think you have something to say, right? So then I started, and the phone just kind of kept ringing. And then I thought, man, and Zig Ziglar had told me when I was young, when I told him I want to do what you did, he said, well, go do something first, and then maybe you can talk about it. And so it's funny how life works, but now I speak and write, and we have training programs and all that kind of stuff.
So let's jump in on the front row seat you've had in life. You've seen some amazing peak performers. I look at your client list. It's unbelievable. So what do you think, what's kind of common, not just to peak performers, not those that get there, but those that stay, like the Tom Brady's of the world, or the Serena Williams? Like, what does it take to not just get there, but stay there?
Right. And it's different, right? I saw a lot of people hoist a trophy once and never again. I saw a lot of coaches win championships and never again. And so, I gave a TED talk on this too. It's not about talent. It's about drive, right? Everybody that gets to the big leagues, everybody gets to the PGA Tour, everybody that, they have talent, but the ones that stay there have drive. And drive, in my opinion, it's not the drive to achieve, David, it's the drive to get better every day. Because if all you're focused on is achieving, is getting to that one place that you've always, it's not enough because success can breed complacency, which is so interesting, right? When you have a ton of success, you can get and settle in and become complacent. And so, it's about mindset. It's about discipline. It's about resilience. It's about connection and relationships.
So I want to ask you right there, because a lot of people are talking about this today. Oh, resilience. Oh, resilience. And some people are saying, I'm burnt out. I'm just plain burnt out. How do I pick myself back up? How do I become resilient? Well, are there ways we can do that? What say you?
Well, I mean, I think number one, you've got to know why you do what you do. I mean, because when we're grinding it, completely grinding it day after day after day, if we don't know why we're doing it, and if we don't have a greater purpose, if we don't have a North Star, then when you do get burned out, when you do hit the speed bumps, you don't want to put in the effort, the grind, because you don't know why you're doing it in the first place. So we have to keep our purpose, our why front and center. We've also got to be intentional about managing our energy. It's always been fascinating to me, David, in the world of business. I came from the sports world where great athletes, they don't live by their calendars at all. Tom Brady isn't waking up every day looking at his calendar. He's looking at what are the kinds of things that I need to do to perform at my best? What are the things that I need to, how do I manage my energy to optimize performance? And the problem today is people's level of demand is exceeding their capacity. And when demand exceeds capacity over a long period of time, it's not sustainable. So you have to pull back and say, what are the things that give me energy? What are the things that give me energy? What are the things that fry my energy? And how can I be intentional about managing my energy and more intentionally, more than my time?
So let's answer these two and get nitty gritty. Number one, you said why is important to this. What's your why right now?
To lead, inspire, and connect with courage and optimism. So I say yes to things in which I know I can live my purpose, which is to lead, inspire, and connect with courage and optimism. If I'm inside of an opportunity where I don't think I can do that, I'm going to say no. And no is hard in life. We don't like to say no, particularly I'm a pleaser, but my purpose now with you is, gosh, can I share some words that could lead, inspire others to live with courage and optimism.
And with that, what gives you energy on a daily basis? You're managing your energy well. You're vibrant. I've seen you on stage and off. You're ready to roll, and your team is. So it's fun. But
sure.
How do you manage it? What gives you energy?
Well, I mean, I've pulled back and I say, what drains my energy? And I've tried to delegate, remove, delete, get rid of those things, whatever those things might be, and optimize them or be more efficient. And then the things that give me energy, for me personally, it's things like working out. It's things like walking my dogs. It's things like, sitting with my husband at the end of the day. I mean, and our kids are in college now. So it's getting clear on what those things are and then ensuring they live inside of my everyday, the things that give me energy. And then the things that drain your energy, you've got to create first awareness around it, right? What are the things that you see on your calendar and you go, oh my gosh, we want to try to delegate those or remove them. And, there was for me, the kids always looked at me at 4:00, Mom, what's for dinner? I don't like to cook. I really don't. I don't love it. Food is fuel to me. And so I was like, I got to figure this out. And so I did one of those, Hello Fresh every day. They're showing up at my house. My kids were pulling. It's like paint by numbers cooking. So I share that only because that was a drainer for me that I turned into an energizer and an opportunity to teach my girls and have them step up and help, or my husband step up and help in that way, in a way that was easy for them. So we've got to get clear and have awareness around those things and then live into it.
Let's jump to negotiation. You're a pro, clearly. You're negotiating these massive contracts. You get a lot of people have different views of negotiation. It's hard, it's bad, it's negative. You got to hold your cards. You got to do this, you got to do that. What would you recommend for those? I mean, I feel like every day is negotiation, whether it's with my teenager or a sale or a company or whatever, or a business deal. And we want to create win-win-wins. But tell me your perspective on negotiation.
Well, I mean, to me, it's just a difficult conversation. And generally, conversations go better when you have a good relationship with the person on the other side. And people would always think, gosh, as an agent, I mean, you just took your gloves off all day long and went at it on the other side of the table. And the truth is, I found the better the relationship, the better the outcome and the quicker I could close deals. So negotiation's a conversation. And to your point, David, it is everywhere. It's all around us. We negotiate who we spend our time with, our energy with. We negotiate deals. We negotiate things personally, professionally. It's everywhere. And the more that we recognize all the opportunities that exist, the better we can get at it, because the more we can practice. And to me, the reason that people are afraid to negotiate is generally, and the data shows this, it's a lack of confidence. But the reason they have a lack of confidence is because they haven't practiced. So what I encourage people to do is practice everywhere. Practice at the coffee shop, practice with the yard guy, practice with your kids. I mean, it's everywhere, but we got to practice. We got to pour into it and recognize that relationships can actually enhance our ability to close deals quicker.
You said something I read, said basically some people see obstacles, others see opportunity.
For sure.
What's that look like?
Well, to me, no is just one away from yes, right? I mean, feedback, no is just feedback to me. I mean, you can imagine as a female sports agent at 25 years old, I mean, I heard no all the time. People thought I was somebody's wife, that, guys were hitting on me behind the dugout when I was trying to recruit a player. I mean, no was constant. And when I moved down to Atlanta trying to find a job in sports, with $1,700, I was eating grapes, walking through the grocery store to save money. I mean, no is just feedback. And so what I found that it's like I was out on the phone with a friend of mine, Eric Thomas, this morning, and winners win and losers lose. I mean, you got to find a way. And that's what I saw always with the best athletes in the world is they saw obstacles and challenges as a gift, as an opportunity to grow. And if you know why you do what you do, you want to embrace and step into those challenges. It makes you better.
Most training and development initiatives don't last or even solve the root problem hindering an organization. That's where TrustEdge certification comes in. TrustEdge certified partners are equipped with a suite of tools to identify, benchmark, and close gaps in trust for good. Because when you solve the real issue, you get measurable results and a culture where people actually want to make an impact. So whether you're a trainer, a manager, an HR executive, or a leader in learning and development, check out trustedgeplatform.com and see how you can start solving the root issue and get lasting results in your organization. And now back to the show.
How did you, it was a highly male environment. There's a lot of other things you could have made excuses about.
Sure.
How did you, all we talk about at the Institute, TrustEdge Leadership Institute, is how do you build trust? How do you build trust fast? How did you build trust, like with your first dealer? Maybe you have a story from somebody you were able to sign. I mean, you're kind of an outlier and you got it done, and then you got it done over and over and over again. I want to hear, how did you start to build trust?
Yeah, authenticity. I mean, I was lined up on the fence with scouts in khakis and golf shirts, right? Chewing tobacco with a whistle around their neck. I mean, I didn't want to try to be like them. I wasn't them. I wasn't going to show up in khakis and a golf shirt. That wasn't me. So, for me, it was about authenticity. And when we're authentic, that's what people want most from us. That's how we truly connect. In my opinion, that's how we build trust. Because we show up the same way consistently. And when we do that, we can connect. And when we do that consistently, we can build trust. So for me, it was consistency. It was outworking everybody else. It was over delivering in a way that surprised and delighted the athletes that I wanted to represent. It was giving so much to the athletes that we had that if I asked them to say a nice word about me to another prospective player, they couldn't wait to do it. They wanted to do it. They were like, yeah, Mal, no problem. I got it. I'll do it. So it was pouring in. I mean, I think, and that's the interesting thing to your point about negotiation that's so unique. I mean, I think people sometimes think that you don't give to the people that you want to negotiate with. But in fact, I think that when you do, it creates an opportunity for more yeses. It creates an opportunity to drive connection as well. So, pouring in and over delivering. I always wanted to make sure that my guys felt like they owed me. So that if I picked up the phone and I called a second baseman and I said, dude, tonight you guys are playing the Giants. I've been trying to get their middle infielder. When he rounds second, if he gets stuck there for a hot minute, will you talk to him for me, right? Or will you run over to the other clubhouse and check in with him before BP. And guys would do that for me. And that was really, I built my roster of clients primarily through referrals from my existing guys, mostly athletes. Most of my guys were guys. 10%
Tell me a story.
girls.
Tell us, I'm just going to push in. This wasn't pre-done.
Yeah.
You didn't ask us. I don't know where you're going to go. But, you've been around some interesting folks and people have seen them on TV
Sure.
but not met them in person maybe. What's a story you have for us from this experience in the sports world?
Well, I mean, I've got 1,000, but I guess I'd give you a couple. I mean, one of my favorite guys who's now calling games on TV is Smoltz. And, John was a guy who was a starter forever. And,
Hall of Famer. Give those that don't know,
Hall
that
of
don't listen to
Famer.
sports.
Yeah, Hall of Famer. Now he's on TV, pitched forever in the big leagues. And so many people that your listeners, your leaders, aspiring leaders, they're dealing with a lot of change. And change is going to continue. And I don't think we're ever going to be on the other side of that. And Smoltz was a guy who for over a decade was a starter. And then all of a sudden, the organization reached out and said, hey, Molly, can you talk to John about whether he'd consider being a closer next season? Now, for those of you that don't know, I mean, a starter's the guy that steps out on the mound at the beginning of games, throws 80 or 90 pitches, and does it again 4 or 5 days later. Now they were asking him to step on the mound at the end of games and throw maybe night after night after night. Long story short, through a lot of conversations that we had, John stepped into that closer role the following season. The team needed him to. The 24 other guys in the dugout needed him to. The coaches, the manager, they needed him to. John led the National League in saves as a closer the following season. He went under the Hall of Fame, one of the only guys, as not just one of the best starters, but one of the best closers. John loved and leaned into change. In other words, the best want the ball when it's tight. They don't mind getting uncomfortable. The pit that we all have often in our stomach when we're dealing and navigating change, both in our own lives, with our companies, with our teams, we don't love that feeling. But the best of the best know that the person that comes out the other side of that change is a better version. Tom Izzo, longtime client, great guy, great human being, head men's basketball coach at Michigan State. National championship he's won. And, Tom sits with his players at the beginning of every season. And this is great for leaders. And he sits down with them and he says, hey, give me real quick on his 3x5 card. He gives them all a 3x5 card. What do you want out of this season? He tells every one of his guys, give it to me. So they all write down what they want out of this season. And then Tom gathers all the cards and then he sits with each guy one by one. And he looks at him and he goes, all right, John, you want to win a national championship. Yeah, coach, that's what I want. Okay, cool. Hey, and you want to graduate an All-American. Yeah, coach, that's what I want. Okay, cool. And you want to get drafted into the NBA. Yeah, coach, that's what I want. Okay. Well, so let me ask you this. As your coach, as your leader, if these are all the things that you want to do, what would you like my role in this to be? Well, what do you mean, coach? Well, gosh, I mean, what can I do to help you achieve this? You just told me these are the things that you want out of this season. What can I do to help you fulfill this? Well, and they kind of pause, they look at Tom, and then they say, well, coach, I guess, you could hold me accountable, help me reach them. Okay, cool. You know what Tom does? If you've ever seen him on the sideline, his head's about to explode when he's talking to his guys. He goes insane on his players. But you know what? He's gotten permission to hold them accountable. He's gotten permission to hold them accountable. And I think, that's what great leaders do. I've got a database of stories, David, I could go on. But to me, those are things that we as leaders can lift up and apply to the people that we lead and serve in a way that allows for alignment and allows us to make other people that we lead the best version of themselves.
Love it. What are you doing these days? What I've noticed at least is people that are leading great organizations and leading well. They're doing some things personally, spiritually, health, athletic, fitness wise, with their health, whatever it is. What are a couple of habits you keep so that you can lead your organization well, lead well from the stage and the spaces you're in these days? What are you doing? Maybe they're habits or repeaters, we call them.
Sure.
What are some things
rituals.
You're doing?
Yeah, I think, at the highest level, I always like to check in mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and relationally. And I try to do that every morning and every night. Where am I? What are some gaps? What am I doing well? Where could I do better? in all of those 5 categories. And I think when we think about our lives in those categories, we can then have the courage and the vulnerability at some level to identify the gaps. I think having people around us that need absolutely nothing from you, but for you to be the best version of yourself is imperative, right? For me, it's my brothers, my husband, my sister-in-law, my parents, those people that aren't afraid to tell you what you're jamming up so that you can get better. Because when you get to a certain point in your life where nobody tells you the truth, so you've got to make sure you've got people that will. So then I think tactically, it's saying to myself often, what can only I do? And I got to give away everything else. What can only I do? And then give it away. And then spending more time working on the business instead of, in it, right? Which means pulling back and creating, repeatable core processes, ensuring that I'm helping hold and support my team relevant to their weekly and their quarterly and their annual goals. Working on the business versus in it is something that I've been really working on lately too.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch you, and you do that so well. I think I've had to work on that over years, 22, 3 years almost now, of this let go of certain things so that better things happen, right?
Sure.
What do you're a continual learner. Are there some other things you're doing that you're learning these days, or what are you curious about right now?
I'm really I'm really curious about why people get complacent. What is it that gets people to that place? And people don't like to talk about complacency. And to me, I've identified 8 core pillars that help get us from complacency to drive. But I have a book that I'm working on that'll come out in 2024 that will be threaded with research too around how do we unlock drive in people and how do we combat complacency, and not just the drive to achieve, but the drive to get better every day. So I'm pretty obsessed with that.
Give us a teaser. This is interesting to me. What's the teaser? We don't have to go through all 8, but what's a teaser on what does it take to go from complacency to drive?
Well, I think it takes a limitless mindset. It takes resilience. It takes discipline. It takes energy. It takes connection. It takes a core purpose. I think you've got to have a core purpose. And, those are some of the things that I think we need, and research would support that. But to me, people get stuck and they don't know it. They get stuck mentally. They get stuck relationally. They get stuck emotionally. They get stuck spiritually, and they don't know it. And so how do we challenge people to dig in and ask themselves tough questions consistently to allow them to identify these areas in their life, maybe where they're a little bit stuck, and what to do instead, right? Because we only get this life thing one time. There's no dress rehearsal in this deal, right? So we don't want to settle for less than we're meant to be, less than we're supposed to be, and less than we can be to contribute to the people that we lead and the people that we serve.
Absolutely. Oh, there's loads more I could ask. I've got probably one more question or two at least, but tell us where we can where's the one key place, everybody, you've got books, you've got some amazing training programs and a host of other things. Where's the key place to find out more about Molly?
Yeah, thanks, David. MollyFletcher.com. If people go to MollyFletcher.com, they can find out all kinds of stuff from there.
And you can find the new training program, the newest books, and a whole lot more about everything from energy to negotiation to going from complacency to drive. Yep. So before I ask my final question, Molly, and this has been a treat and we could talk all day, but we're kind of similar in certain ways. We did some things and then we ended up really not just speaking, we ended up crossing paths from speaking, but kind of trying to and caring about creating these learning and development businesses that reach the world, that go beyond us, that touch people in ways that we're passionate about. And
sure.
But if you did have and have had over these years so many amazing different coaches, athletes, leaders, one advice, you've got some piece of advice that you either heard from them or maybe even surprised you from somebody you talked to like that, but it stuck with you in this time, some coach you watch like, or is there any like outlier piece of advice that you kind of keep thinking back on that you heard over the years from some of the leaders you've served?
I would say Dabo Sweeney said, who I have a lot of respect for as a person, as a human being, but he's a great football coach too, and a great leader, is bloom where you're planted. Bloom where you're planted. In other words, and Saban says it in a different way, head coach at Alabama, right? Be where your feet are now, Saban says. But it's, in other words, wherever you are right now, be incredible. Be the best. Whatever that is, the best. And crush it. Because you know what? If you do that, opportunities are going to be unlocked. They just are. If you over-deliver, if you execute, if you show up, if you behave with discipline, then opportunities will come. They will. So bloom where you're planted, Dabo said. I also had another woman tell me once, be brave, not perfect. And I think, that is an important thing to remember for us as leaders, because we aren't perfect. We aren't, and not even close. So be brave, because that's what our people need us to do when we're leading them, is be brave and step into the discomfort and the change and the challenges, and be that first guy or gal on the front of the line.
Be brave, not perfect. Bloom where you planted. Simple but powerful. Thank you.
That's right.
Hey, it's the Trusted Leader Show. It's the final question. This has been a treat. Thank you so much, by the way, for all this and just for being my friend. It's been a great privilege of my life. But last question, Trusted Leader Show. Who's a leader you trust, Molly, and why?
Honestly, I would say my parents, my mom and dad.
I've heard you talk about them before.
Yeah, and my husband. To me, they have humility, they have discipline, they believe, they're resilient, they have drive in their own way at 80 and 85. But I trust them in being a North Star for me in choices in life. And I'm so grateful for that.
It's nice when the closest ones to you are the ones you trust the most, huh?
Amen. Yes.
Lots more we could say. MollyFletcher.com. Molly, thanks for being on with us. Like I said, there's a lot more we could say and talk about. You've got a load of stories. I've heard some of them. But I appreciate this, Molly, about you. I appreciate who you are on stage, but more than that, even off stage. So that's a gift to everybody. It's been the Trusted Leader Show. Until next time, stay trusted.